Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and here's a headline from You Today. XRP's use cases are basically same as Bitcoin, says Ripple's Director of Developer Relations. And this is always a fun topic, I think, to talk about, because, and this is a fun thing also to ask a Bitcoin maxi troll. What is it that Bitcoin can do that XRP cannot? Watch their little simple brains explode as you ask that. So I want to share that, and also there's a thread on a Bitcoin talk forum from 2011, and it's the I believe it's the very first mention of the idea of a cryptocurrency without mining. So it's the idea, and it's from Jed McCaleb, who was one of the three creators of XRP. It was his initial post about the idea of it, and it was interesting how there are a number of people not so fond of the concept. So anyway, before we go any further, I do want to be clear that I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who makes YouTube videos as a fun hobby. But anyway, those outside the XRP community often doubt that Ripple-affiliated XRP token has any actual use cases, and people from Ripple and XRP community try to convince them that those do exist. It's so funny. Like, it's not even an opinion, it's a fact. XRP is used today, every single day, in enterprise-grade software. That's utility. That is not an opinion. That's an objective fact. And some people just deny that what is reality is reality. There's complete, utter denial. Anyway, this time it was Ripple's Matt Hamilton who took to Twitter to explain what XRP was initially made for, and, according to him, its use cases are the same as those of the flagship cryptocurrency. And this is true, by the way, so you could actually, if you wanted to, you could plug Bitcoin into on-demand liquidity. You could program it to do that. So XRP right now, of course, it's the only cryptocurrency that can today be used in Ripple's on-demand liquidity, which is, again, of course, just XRP being positioned as a bridge currency. But that's because that's all that it's been programmed to do. You could absolutely program on-demand liquidity to plug in any cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin. It's just that Bitcoin's slow and clunky and costly, and so you'd add more friction doing that. But you could plug in anything that you want, because XRP was just designed to be a better version of Bitcoin. But anyway, when responding to a tweet in which an author states that no banks use XRP and that it is a useless and centralized copy of Bitcoin, Ripple's Director of Developer Relations, Matt Hamilton, wrote that these assumptions are far from the truth. Hamilton explained that XRP was created as a better version of Bitcoin by Bitcoin developers as soon as they realized that Bitcoin energy usage cannot be scaled. As for use cases, XRP, according to Hamilton, they are basically similar to those of Bitcoin, a provision of peer-to-peer payments which do not require any third party. And so here is a tweet from somebody named chazbot.eth, who wrote, "I've never had a good answer to the question, what does XRP actually do? Get some vague answer about banks using it for settlements, except no banks are doing that." And so, and then he wrote, it's basically a centralized Bitcoin, hard to manage anything more useless. So of course, XRP is arguably more decentralized than Bitcoin, but he's not armed with knowledge here. He does not know that, or he's intentionally misleading people. It's one or the other, both are bad, I don't know. And clearly, Ripple has dozens of customers that utilize on-demand liquidity, which requires XRP usage on a daily basis. So there you go. And Matt Hamilton wrote, "No, it is decentralized just like Bitcoin. XRP was created by Bitcoin developers as a better Bitcoin once they realized that Bitcoin's energy usage was not scalable. So its use cases are basically the same as Bitcoin, making peer-to-peer payments without a trusted third party." Exactly. And so then if you jump into this is the Bitcoin talk forum, and this is a post from Jed McCaleb, which is written on May 27th, 2011. This is interesting stuff here. So this is before XRP existed. The development hadn't started. There's just an idea in Jed McCaleb's mind, right? A little over 10 years ago. And he wrote the following. "So I've been thinking, Bitcoin mining seems like such an unfortunate side effect of the system since it is so wasteful. It will be a bit obscene how much will be spent mining if the network ever gets large. It would be cool to come up with a Bitcoin that doesn't need miners. There are several issues, but I'll ignore how coins are distributed and focus on the central problem of creating some way to trust the central ledger. Currently, this is what mining solves. The network trusts the ledger with the most mining done on it. So now, to trust Bitcoin, you have to trust greater than 50% of the current mining power is good. And actually, the way the network has evolved with pools, we are actually trusting that every large pool operator is good, since even if the pool isn't over 50%, the operator could have non-pool mining going on, bringing the total over 50%, or two pools could collude to defraud the network, etc. Also, if, say, some government decides to wreck the network, it wouldn't be that expensive for them to do so. Right, so my point is that although the current network uses mining as a way to solve the trust issue, it really doesn't, since you still must trust the large pool operators. Exactly. Which is why, as we've seen, I know there's been a change recently, but like over half of Bitcoin mining occurring in China, like 4 big pools. I think it was 4 anyway. And I know there's been some stuff in the news, I've talked about that too, but for most of the last few years, my gosh, what happens if those miners collude? It is the case that's a form of centralization, arguably so, right? So anyway, Jed continues here. My idea is to make this issue of trust explicit. Let's say a node has a public key that the client generates for them. There is no connection between this key and a wallet key. It just allows you to be sure you are talking to the node you think you are. So when you run a node, you choose which other nodes you trust. Does this sound familiar? Unique node list? Familiar, guys? Anyway, and then he wrote, so you could say, I trust my 3 friends' nodes, Gavin's node and these 5 businesses' nodes. This trust means that you believe these people will never participate in a double spend attack or otherwise manipulate the ledger. The ledger would basically be like the current Bitcoin blockchain, but it would also have a list of what nodes believe the current ledger to be valid. All right, let's hash of current ledger signed by node's public key. This list doesn't have to be complete. Nodes can just collect this list as needed. They could even just ask the nodes they trust if they think the current ledger is valid, since those are the only ones they care about. And so transactions are still sent to all nodes connected to the network. There would be a network-wide timestamp. Transactions would only be accepted if they were within a certain time period of the network timestamp, so you would need to wait maybe 10 minutes before you could fully trust a given transaction. After this waiting period, you could be sure those coins weren't double spent. And so, mind you, again, he's talking about something that would eventually become XRP. XRP ended up being better than that. It settles with finality in 3 to 5 seconds typically. So 10 minutes, no, you don't need that to happen. But again, this is when he was just kind of going through the brainstorming phase. So it's just fascinating to see the evolution of this. And then he wrote, if a node ever encounters 2 conflicting ledgers, it would just go with the one that was validated by more nodes that it trusts. So there should always be a consensus among the trusted members of the network. There would be a way to look up particular nodes in the network and ask them questions. So obviously this is still vague because I haven't had time to work out all the details. I'm hoping someone else will be inspired. Okay, rip into it. And so then there's some right here. Oh yeah, here we go. Somebody responded with the following. I love this one. The very same day, May 27th, 2011. I stopped reading right here. And so he quoted the part says, so I've been thinking, Bitcoin mining seems like such an unfortunate side effect of the system since it's so wasteful. And then this guy named Moonshadow wrote, I stopped reading right here. Bitcoin is not wasteful even now. It's several orders of magnitude more energy efficient than the fiat currency systems in use around the world. And so that's not a good argument. And so Jed McHale actually responded to that and wrote, I would argue that it will be even more consolidated. There will be just a few large mining operations and some big pools. This makes the issue of trust even worse. And then he wrote, just because it is less wasteful than another wasteful thing doesn't make it not wasteful. You are basically saying the Model T is much faster than the horse. There can't be anything faster. And so because the fiat system's worse than Bitcoin in terms of wasted energy and so on and so forth, this is fine. Well, I will just stick with this. No, of course you can do better than that. It's just a bogus argument. But there was pushback even then, and this was before we knew that XRP's primary use case would soon become that as a bridge currency helping out the legacy financial system, which the Bitcoin maxis absolutely despise. So you can see how this all ultimately got out of control. Interesting stuff just kind of going down Going down to just looking back at, historically, like what led to XRP actually being created. So that stuff, I don't think I had ever seen that before. But I'll go ahead and wrap up there. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.